For example, if General Motors were to come out and say that global warming is a hoax thought up by some liberal tree huggers, people would suspect GM's motives, since selling automobiles makes GM's fortune. If however some independent research institute with a very credible sounding name like the Global Climate Coalition, comes out with a scientific report that says global warming is really a fiction, people begin to get confused and to have doubts about the original issue. So that's exactly what Beames did. With a policy inspired by genius, he set up more institutes and foundations than Rockefeller and Carnegie combined. Quietly financed by the industries whose products were being evaluated, these independent research agencies would chum out scientific studies and press materials that could create any image their handlers wanted. Such front groups are given Higgs-sounding names like Temperature Research Foundation, Manhattan Institute, International Food Information Council, Center for Produce Quality, Consumer Alert, Tobacco Institute Research Council, the Advancement of Sound Science Coalition, Cato Institute, Air Hygiene Foundation, American Council on Science and Health, Industrial Health Federation, Global Climate Coalition, International Food Information Council, Alliance for Better Food. Sound pretty legit, don't they? As Stauber explains, these organizations and hundreds of others like them are front groups whose sole mission is to advance the image of the global corporations who fund them, like those listed before. This is accomplished in part by an endless stream of press releases announcing breakthrough research to every radio station and newspaper in the country. Many of these canned reports read like straight news, and indeed are purposely molded in the news format. This saves journalists the trouble of researching the subjects on their own, especially on topics about which they know very little. Entire sections of the release, or in the case of video news releases, the whole thing can be just lifted intact, with no editing, given the byline of the reporter or newspaper or TV station, and voila! Instant news, copy and paste. Written by corporate PR firms. Does this really happen? Every single day, since the 1920s, when the idea of the news release was first invented by Ivy Lee. Sometimes as many as half the stories appearing in an issue of the Wall Street Journal are based solely on such PR press releases. These types of stories are mixed right in with legitimately researched stories. Unless you have done the research yourself, you won't be able to tell the difference. American Samoa, 1920, as spin pioneers like Ivy Lee and Edward Beames gained more experience, they began to formulate rules and guidelines for creating public opinion. They learned quickly that mob psychology must focus on emotion, not facts. Since the mob is incapable of rational thought, motivation must be based not on logic but on presentation. Here are some of the axioms of the new science of PR. Technology is a religion unto itself. If people are incapable of rational thought, real democracy is dangerous. Important decisions should be left to experts when reframing issues. Stay away from substance. Create images. Never state a clearly demonstrable lie. Words are very carefully chosen for their emotional impact. Here's an example. A front group called the International Food Information Council handles the public's natural aversion to genetically modified foods. Trigger words are repeated all through the text. Now in the case of GM foods, the public is instinctively afraid of these experimental new creations, which have suddenly popped up on our grocery shelves, which are said to have DNA alterations. He organized the Torches of Liberty Brigade, in which suffragettes marched in the parade smoking cigarettes as a mark of women's liberation. Such publicity followed from that one event, that from then on women have felt secure about destroying their own lungs in public, the same way that men have always done. Beames also popularized the idea of bacon for breakfast. Not one to turn down a challenge, he set up the advertising format along with the AMA that lasted for nearly 50 years, proving that cigarettes are beneficial to health. Just look at ads in issues of Life or Time from the 40s and 50s. Bernays' job was to reframe an issue, to create a desired image that would put a particular product or concept in a desirable light. Bernays described the public as a herd that needed to be led. And this herd-like thinking makes people susceptible to leadership. Bernays never deviated from his fundamental axiom to control the masses without their knowing it. The best PR happens with the people unaware that they are being manipulated. Stauber describes Bernays' rationale like this: the scientific manipulation of public opinion was necessary to overcome chaos and conflict in a democratic society. These early mass persuaders postured themselves as performing a moral service for humanity in general. Democracy was too good for people. They needed to be told what to think, because they were incapable of rational thought by themselves. Here's a paragraph from Bernays' propaganda: those who manipulate the unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. In almost every act of our lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires that control the public mind. Once the possibilities of applying Freudian psychology to mass media were glimpsed, Bernays soon had more corporate clients than he could handle. Global corporations fell all over themselves courting the new image makers. There were dozens of goods and services and ideas to be sold to a susceptible public. Over the years, these players have had the money to make their images happen. A few examples: Philip Morris, Pfizer, Union Carbide, Allstate, Monsanto, Eli Lilly, Tobacco Industry, Ciba Geigy, Lead Industry, Coors, DuPont, Clorox, Shell Oil, Standard Oil, Procter & Gamble, Boeing, General Motors, Dow Chemical, General Mills, Goodyear. Though world famous within the PR industry, the companies have names we don't know, and for good reason. The best PR goes unnoticed. For decades they have created the opinions that most of us were raised with, on virtually any issue which has the remotest commercial value, including pharmaceutical drugs, vaccines, medicine, as a profession, alternative medicine, fluoridation of city water, chlorine, household cleaning products, tobacco, dioxin, global warming, leaded gasoline, cancer research and treatment, pollution of the oceans, forests and lumber, images of celebrities, including damage control, crisis and disaster management, genetically modified foods, aspartame, food additives, processed foods, dental amalgams. Lesson number 1: Bernays learned early on that the most effective way to create credibility for a product or an image was by independent third-party endorsement.